A post-pandemic trend sees Rockford small businesses sharing space, something that's paying off in more ways than one.
23 News reporter Jim Haggerty talks to 4 business owners who say they're right at home in their shared locations.
That's right. Self-employed doctors, lawyers, dentists, and others have been sharing space for years, but it's a model that hasn't really caught on with the rest of the small business community. However, 3 years after the onset of COVID-19, it's now a very attractive situation for several local entrepreneurs.
It is incredibly convenient sharing a space with 4 other photographers. It helps with the month-to-month rent.
But it's more than that for Karis Fisher, a self-employed photographer who's part of the 815 Collective, 5 separate small businesses who share the same downtown commercial space.
It's really nice to have the support financially and emotionally. Having people be there to support you month to month so that you can continue on in your business.
And although each business is independent, the competition is friendly, if it even exists at all.
We shoot similar things, but also very different things. We have different styles. We have our own niche set of photography that we do.
Yoga practitioner Rachel Bagney was looking for like-minded business owners when she recruited a hairstylist, massage therapist, and an esthetician to share the historic Emerson House.
It ended up working really well for us to be housed together so that we can refer one another to each of our individual specialties.
Business owners say the trend of sharing space grew out of relationships created as they were forced to work remotely during the pandemic.
And now that we're able to get out and about again, just being able to share spaces together just really helps bring everyone together and bond over our businesses.
Between the Emerson House and the First Street home of the 815 Collective, there's a total of 10 small businesses that call those locations home.
That's a lot of business bonding for sure.
Yeah,
In 2020, a shared and co-working commercial space made up around 5% of the market nationally.
And according to real estate experts, that market share is expected to rise to more than 30% in the next 7 years.